Michael Scott here from the Education Department. I also run the podcast. I'm here with Rich Letourneau, and we're here to talk about Rich's Top 10. So, the first thing on the list, Rich, is what are we talking about here?
Well, Mike, thanks for the intro. One of the things that's probably the most sought after question I get, especially in the conditions we're in today, is overtime provisions on page 212 of the National Agreement, which is your Plan A and Plan B. Those questions come up quite often, considering we have a lot of trucks that are not being shipped to customers. So I get a lot of questions about critical status, mandatory Saturdays, increase of Saturdays, increase of Sundays. One thing I start mandating us like other plants are doing, and quite frankly, Plan A and Plan B were put in the National Agreement for a reason. And we have steadfast stuck with Plan A. Once we got moved, it went to 3 shifts. So what is Plan A? Plan A is 2 out of 3 Saturdays, period. It doesn't add additional Sundays to Plan A. It doesn't add mandatory Sundays to Plan A. And it doesn't add mandatory Saturdays to Plan A, additional other than the 2 out of 3 Saturdays.
Okay.
And that is what we're doing. And we've stuck to it, and we'll continue to stick to it. We've worked under 2 provisions here. I've worked through both of them. Under Plan B, you work 6 Saturdays a year, up to 10 hours daily overtime. Unfortunately, that's impossible for us to do that here.
Right.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword because nobody really likes to work 10 hours a day.
Right.
But they like when the 6 Saturdays are over with and it's done. But it's impossible to work 10 hours a day here with 3 shifts. So we pretty much stayed away from that plan. And those are the 2 plans that are outlined in the National Agreement. However, there is a Plan C out there.
What's a Plan C?
So Plan C is something that I don't believe I'm interested in, and I don't believe that this membership is interested in as well. And that is where the company and the union sit down and they go outside of Plan A, outside of Plan B, and put their own MOU together.
Oh, okay. What's an MOU?
Well, a memorandum of understanding is something that it's outside of the national provisions. And in some cases, an MOU can enhance the quality of life of your membership or, increase your job security. But at the same token, it can cause serious problems if it isn't an issue that the membership agrees to. For example, currently, we are the only plant that's under Plan A of the National Agreement.
The only plant?
Correct.
Wow.
Every other plant has currently signed an MOU to go to Plan C,
Okay.
which is 6 Saturdays or 6 days a week mandatory.
Okay.
And then some of them assign Sundays as well mandatory. Some got a 7-day-a-week schedule, some got a 6-day-a-week schedule mandatory, and some plants got 2 Sundays a month mandatory.
Wow.
And I have no intentions of ever doing that. That is one of those things that if the company comes to me, which they have many times, and says, hey, it's imperative that we do this now, I would not agree to that without the membership authorization. I just wouldn't.
Right.
That is one that is very, very tough MOU for me to sign, and the shop committee to support me on it as well without the membership's buy-in, because that is really, really taken away from family time. 2 out of 3 Saturdays isn't enough. But I think most people know that in the truck division, the demand for our product has always been high. I've been with the company a long time, and the demand has always been there. Even during the downturn and the bankruptcy, our trucks were still selling.
Yep.
We were still working. So it's a good problem to have. However, when you agree to a schedule outside of Plan A and Plan B, your membership bodies can't take that. And what ends up happening is they'll stop coming to work anyhow, because they're gonna have to go on sick leave to repair their bodies.
Right.
So you don't gain nothing by it, really. And I think The organization understands that. That is why I've never entertained Plan C. And I more than likely never will. I just don't see it happening in my lifetime.
So, are there any specific examples of any plants that are currently on what you call Plan C?
Oh, absolutely.
And what is their schedule like?
So Flint right now, they have been on a 6-day week schedule for a long time. They're on the 6-day week probably the last couple of years. They just recently signed an agreement, an MOU that puts mandatory 2 Sundays a month. Arlington's been doing the 6-day a week and 7-day a week schedule for at least 11 years that I know of. And Wentzville as well. Wentzville just recently took a shift off because of the pandemic, but prior to that, they were working the 6-day a week schedule as well. And I just think that's kind of a brutal schedule. I get it. I understand the reasons for some plants doing it, because they're trying to preserve their product and not give up volume. But Salal is another one that's working. Salal's on a 7-day a week schedule now, and they have been for a long time.
So locally, we're on Plan A scheduling. What is Plan B like?
So Plan B is normally operated when there's a 2-shift operation.
Okay.
And we worked Plan B for a lot of years here. Them were the good old days. It was nice. Under Plan B, you work 6 Saturdays a year.
Okay.
That's it.
Just 6 Saturdays.
That's it. And once your 6 Saturdays up, your weekends are free.
Wow.
However, they were 10-hour days, Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And those 10-hour days, they picked up, 20 hours of production.
Right.
Which was, and a lot of people didn't mind doing that. They had their weekends free. And I believe that maybe the membership today would mind doing that if they had their weekends free.
Right.
They got their 6 Saturdays out of the way. But I'm going to tell you, that assembly line is brutal for 10 hours a day. Those are tough days. Every single day's, a mofo.
Right.
I mean, it is. And, our people back then, I talked to them out on the floor, and they're like, hey, we know we're going 9-5, or we're going 10 hours, but we got Saturday off. It sucks. But, a lot of times, we, just to make schedule, we'd get it done like in 9-5.
Okay.
Those are good days.
Right.
But when they heard that radio saying 10 hours, you could hear everybody sigh. Oh, God.
Yep.
My phone would ring. I would get text messages, or I get phone calls.
Right.
They're going 10 out here, Richie. And so, I get it, because it is tough. It's a double-edged sword. But again, it goes back to demand for the product. That's really what it's all about. Mm-hmm. And without demand for the product, we wouldn't be here.
Right.
And, I've been here through a lot of Appendix A transfers with plants that close.
Right.
And I know what they're going through, and I understand that, it sucks to move and stuff and leave your families and have to make those decisions. But,
right.
A lot of people were relieved that they had job security. With job security comes a lot of hours. And I'm not buying or selling. I'm just saying that it comes with.
Right.
That's what job security comes with, is mandatory hours.
I say, so I've been here like 9 years. Well, that was one of the first things I remember you saying. This is a feast or famine industry. So we're either working a lot or we're not working at all. And that's how it's been.
And that's kind of how I kind of changed my segments and orientation now because of that.
Yeah.
And I tell the temps, as you come in as a temp, I don't want you to be, taken by surprise. Because a lot of you come to my office and say, hey, get me hired here, Richie. I want to get hired, man. I appreciate everything you do. Get me hired if you can. And as soon as they get hired, they don't like this 2 out of 3 Saturday stuff,
Right.
And I'm like, so I tell them in orientation, if you really, really have to have your weekends and working Saturdays is something that just goes against your vibe, this is not the place for you.
Right.
I said, because once you get full time, you're probably going to be on second shift, and you're going to be working 2 out of 3 Saturdays,
right.
No matter what.
So with Plan A, how does the daily overtime work?
So we have a huge discrepancy on the interpretation of Plan A for daily overtime. Mm-hmm. And we have made that argument with the people in Detroit as well, because there is no umpire case that actually says under Plan A that they don't have paragraph 8 rights where they can force you to work 9 hours in the event your department's not working 9 hours.
Okay.
I mean, we've always looked at the schedule. If the company schedule in 9 hours, then we get it. If the company schedules 9 hours in the last minute of the day because they're short people, we've always argued that absenteeism is not a reason to schedule 9 hours.
Right.
If you're going to schedule an entire department 9 hours, we get it because we know how these feeder lines work. But that's impossible.
Right.
To schedule another department, a whole department 9 hours because somebody else is coming right behind them to do their job on that 9th hour,
Right.
which is their first hour of the day. So, we know they struggle out there to make production and make schedule, and I get all that. But some of those issues, I believe, circumvent the agreement, and we have no MOU to let them work 9 hours, so it's always a fight. And I've walked out there myself and taken people off the line saying they can't force you 9, let's go. Am I looking to start a concerted effort out there? I'm not looking to shut the plant down. I'm not looking to get anybody fired on a
Right.
concerted effort, but at the same token, they have to get their shit together if they want to utilize Plan A correctly, because we live by it. They need to live by it all the time.
Right. I agree. So, Rich, is there any time during Plan A where they can force us to go longer than 9 hours?
The only time that they can go outside of Plan A is if I agree to it, which is Plan C, which I'm never going to unless his membership agrees to it and ratifies it,
Right.
or during the exemption period. Under paragraph 10 of Plan A, it talks about the exemption period. And again, it's another area where we have our fights,
Mm-hmm.
and we understand making schedule. But at the same token, 2 weeks preceding the launch and 2 to 3 weeks after launch, they can run the exemption period. And there's a sentence in there that talks about until we reach full line speed.
Mm-hmm.
So they can give them up to maximum of 5 weeks, 2 plus 3
Okay.
by the national agreement to work balls out pretty much every single day of the week, 10 hours a day, whatever. But unfortunately, when they run that exemption period, there's only one shift that they get to run, that extra, to go
Right.
above 9 hours, and that's second shift if there's nobody's working the next day.
Right.
Then they'll run them in longer hours, which is, pretty unfair to the second shift, we argue it all the time. However, when you get to that 3rd week after launch,
Yeah.
and you haven't reached full schedule,
Right.
we always have that argument, because the language, if you read it, basically says until we reach full line speed.
Right.
Well, so the fundamental argument is every launch, and we still argue it, does one shift have to hit that full speed? All 3 shifts have to hit it. Do we have to hit our target number of 340 for the day?
Right.
Do we got to hit our target number of 1550 a day, whatever the target is?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we got to hit it just 440 on one shift? So we've had this argument with several different plant managers. We haven't had it with the new one yet, but like some of the plant managers I've dealt with over the years said, hey, if one shift hits it, I'm good.
Okay.
But some plant managers say, hey, no, I want to hit our schedule, which means all 3 shifts hit it. And if you have a breakdown or a bad night, some shifts can never hit it. Like,
Right.
that's a moving target, man. So we make that argument with them all the time. But that paragraph right there is literally the only time that they can work us outside of Plan A. And it ain't forever. But, that is one of the reasons I will tell you that they are offering the voluntary Sundays right now. Because they don't want to have to do that. But with this semiconductor issue, I honestly believe if they have parts, they're going to try to work us as many hours as they can during that time frame, I believe. They don't want to do it because they know your bodies get tore up working them kind of hours.
Right.
They recognize that. At least this new plant manager does, and which I appreciate the fact he understands that this is brutal on bodies. So we're hoping that we get enough parts and enough volunteers and maybe pick up some of these Sundays,
Right.
so they don't have to use that exemption language to their favor, because he's going to get told what to do.
Right. All right, Rich. Now I wanted to ask you about paragraph 12 of the overtime MOU. What is that? So what is the language on emergency overtime?
So that's kind of a twofold paragraph, and I'm happy to say that we enhanced it during the last set of national negotiations from a resolution that we turned in here locally, and we discussed it with the International Union as we did it. I think there's other locals that turned it in as well because we talked about it at subcouncil. But in the past, when we had emergency breakdowns, under paragraph 12, they got the right to make them hours up, 4 hours or more, if there's a breakdown. And they always did. However, when they did it, we'd go home like early on a Thursday,
Right.
4 hours early. Well, that short work week kicks in for them. However, if you're scheduled for that Saturday and it's a mechanical breakdown, the plant goes down, no fault of ours,
Right.
that those first 4 hours were not compensable, and they were working for straight time pay. And so that's what we argued up north all the time about this. That needs to change. I mean, if there's a mechanical breakdown, our people should be coming in on a weekend, Saturday or Sunday, for straight time pay. It's bullshit.
Right.
So they fully understood where we were coming from in that resolution. It got adopted and agreed to, which was a great stroke of business for our national agreement. So now when that happens, if just recently happened again, if you got a 4 hour breakdown or more and people get sent home, that is a mechanical breakdown. That's compensable hours. When you're scheduled for that Saturday, all that time is time and a half, where before it wasn't. So that was a great piece of the business for our people.
That is really nice. So what? So with a breakdown of the 4 hours or more, so what does that allow management to do?
Well, it allows them to pick up the lost units.
Okay.
And unfortunately, when they do that, and they've scheduled a Sunday, but preferably, if they have to make it up in the same week, I would much rather see them, work a Sunday,
Right.
force a Sunday than a Saturday. I mean, if I'm going to get forced, I want to be here on double time.
Right.
And we've always made that argument with them, and they're not really opposed to it. At this point, I think they'll agree to anything if they'll get the units out.
Right.
But I do the math on a Saturday and a Sunday, and I'd much rather do a Sunday.
So there's no restriction on they can go outside of the 2 out of 3 and then the 7 days just to make up those units.
Just under that emergency language.
Okay. All right, Rich, before we wrap up, was there anything else that you want to discuss?
No, I just want to say in closing that I think this is a great opportunity for the Education Committee to put the right tools in front of our membership. And if you're going to be an Education Committee, I don't see any better way to do it than actually talk directly to the chairman and ask contractual issues that are on people's minds out there on the floor. And I think this would be a great tool for our members.
All right, Rich. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank Holly Murphy for setting this all up. And on behalf of the Education Department, I'd like to thank you for watching.